Welcome to the Heartist journey going ACDC!
Welcome to the Heartist journey going ACDC!
So what is ACDC? As Accor Hotels, we want to connect hearts all around the world. And we are a big company in over 90 countries. And we know so much of our guests, but how many times a day do we use it to really touch the heart of our guest? So ACDC is the tool that will enable us to do just that. If the guest has really loved something in France and we know it in Singapore, we can touch their heart. Or if a guest has said something special about a special date in Australia and we can put that date in ACDC and know the same thing over in Brazil, Rio, then we can touch the heart of the guest there. So the thing is, ACDC will enable us to touch the heart of our guests all around the world by making things personal through digitalization. And that is what this entire workshop is about. We're going to do this in 4 workshops. The first workshop will deal with why we're doing this. And it will tell us all about the reasons behind this project. The second one is going to be about how we need to share all of this within our hotels and also throughout the world. The third one is going to be about how to prepare inside your hotel so that you can really use the system to your benefit and touch the heart of your guest. And the last one is going to be about if we find out something great for our guests and we want to surprise them with it. And we just surprise them without saying it, without saying we know this about you, then we're failing.
Workshop 1. The why of ACDC. What is the purpose of this workshop?
The biggest purpose of this workshop is that everybody realizes that ACDC is just an enabler to help us touch the heart of our guest. So that this workshop is not about a new tool, a new system and how we're going to use the system, but that it's about enabling us to be heartists. That's the biggest purpose of this first workshop.
There are 4 main components in this workshop. Numero 1. The why of why are we heartists. The second one is a quiz about why do we need to be heartists now. The third one is the Heartist model, the most important model of the whole Heartist journey.
And the fourth one is connecting Heartist to the power ACDC and melting them together. And we do that through some amazing role plays and through some first visuals of how ACDC is actually going to look. The quiz is a high energy game where you divide the people and ask them questions. And it will function as a sort of a Trojan horse. People think they're looking at a horse, think they're playing a game. But the answers that they're giving inside the game are actually changing their mindset. So make sure that you bring lots of energy to the game, ask all the questions and get people to really reflect on the answers. And of course the answers will lead to one fundamental conclusion. We need to change. Digitalization and personalization are there. We need to be heartists.
Okay, for the Heartist model you really need to read the manual because we've explained it in there. When you're building up the Heartist model on the flip chart, you need to spend most time explaining process. So make sure that you have examples of your own hotel or your own life or whatever, but make sure you really explain process level. That's the most important part.
So the role play you need to prepare well and then they will work magically. How you will do it is you'll have your co-facilitator or co-trainer with you and you'll act out the first role play. And you make sure that the person who's playing the person from Accor Hotels is really on a nice style level. So they're kind and they're happy, but they're not asking questions. And then after that you've done that, people will say, pretty good, pretty nice. And then you say, but wait. And then you show on the screen behind you the content of ACDC and how you would have responded to this particular guest, in which way you would have responded to them when you would have known that knowledge before they arrived. And you ask the people to coach you in how you could do it better with this knowledge. Make sure that when they coach you, you ask them also, should I actually say that I know this? And the answer is, of course, yes. You have to say that you know this, because we are all connected, all our hotels around the world. So that's why we know that a person needs a certain thing, or that they really love a certain thing. Certain thing?
The wrap up of the why workshop is you explaining about the 3 follow-up workshops, and they are: share it, prepare it, dare it. Share it. We have 3 objectives. 1, fill out the system with the right things so we can share this knowledge with all our colleagues from all over the world.
2 is to fill the system with the right things, the things that really touch the heart of our guests. We need to fill the system with the right content, because if you fill the system with things that really heartwarm our guests, then it will work. If we put in all kinds of nonsense that don't help us to touch the heart of the guest, we're wasting our time. Number 3, we need to share this with the whole hotel. It's not just for front office, but everybody can work on getting information out of ACDC to touch the heart of our guest. And of course, to put it in. Anybody can collect great information. It can come from anybody in any team.
The build-up of the shared workshop contains 2 strong elements that you both need. The first one is that you have your lab hotels in the room with you so that participants can learn from them. The second part is that we'll be telling them the 5 biggest mistakes that they can make if they're going to use ACDC.
In the workshop, we're going to combine the strength of the people who've already experimented with ACDC with the mistakes that they have fallen into, and tell the people that are there, don't make our mistakes. So it will be a combination of the mistakes and the sharing of the people who've already done ACDC.
In the shared workshop, per mistake, we take 3 steps. The first one is that we talk about why is it so easy to make this mistake.
Why is this a pitfall waiting for you to fall into?
The second step is that we talk about what happens if you make the mistake. What are the consequences?
So if you fall into the pitfall anyway, what will happen? What will be the negative outcome of making this mistake? And we do this to make sure that they don't fall into it.
And the third step is we either do an exercise or we listen to the lab hotel share their experience and how they dealt with it. The success of your workshop depends on how well you instruct your lab hotels to give the right information with the top 5 mistakes and how they dealt with it. Make sure you really take the time in preparing them. ACDC! Workshop 3. Prepare it. Prepara. 2 purposes.
The first purpose of this workshop is to have the people in the room realize they need to adapt their way of working. If they don't adapt their way of working, they will introduce something great, but everybody will run against the clock of time, they won't know what to do, and it slowly dies.
The second purpose is that they know that their life is going to be easier with ACDC. Because they will know that from now on they will not have to look into like 3 or even more systems to prepare all arrivals, but only 1. Everybody knows that preparing arrivals takes a lot of time and a lot of systems. And we're going to trick them into thinking that ACDC is yet another system that is going to be added. More work.
So in a short movie that you will see included in your pack, you'll see people working with lots of papers and Excel sheets and system 1, 2 and 3 and thinking that ACDC will be system 4 or 5. And then we're going to show them in that movie that no. ACDC will be on top and gather all the information that is needed to prepare your arrivals in one system.
So then they're going to see the system and how it works.
And then we're going to have them realize inside this workshop of all the things they need to do in their hotel to make this a success. So not to just be enthusiastic because ACDC is great, but also also to think about, okay, what does this mean for my arrival preparation? How do I prevent this from going wrong? How am I going to do that? And we're going to use a digital tool for that called the Mentimeter. It is designed so that people realize what are the steps that I have to take, and at the end of the workshop they'll make their own list going, okay, this is how I'm going to go about it.
Workshop 4, Dare It. Workshop 4, Dare It.
The purpose of Dare It is for our people, when they do something special, when they take that extra step for our guest, because they have that information out of ACDC, that they say that they did that for them. They don't just do it, but they say they do it. And this is going to be like the hardest thing ever, because if you look all around the world to how people are giving out the voucher for people to get a free drink when they're Le Club Silver or Gold, usually it's done by sliding it over the counter and saying, here's your voucher. Instead of using that moment to really celebrate, it's so great that you're a silver member. What's your favorite drink? Okay, make sure you get it tonight at the bar for your free voucher. Something like that.
So the fourth workshop, Dare It, consists of two important parts. The first one is brainstorming on good ideas.
The exercise will be quite simple. You will give them something that you could find in ACDC and you ask them, what can you do with this? So people are going to just free themselves up and brainstorm all around how could they use this information to really touch the heart of the guest. The big mistake around ACDC could be that if you see something great in the system, you think you're going to have to spend money to touch the heart of the guest. So that's why there's an exercise there where you're going to mix all the brands and make sure that they go into 3 groups, and you tell them, group 0, your budget is 0. What could you still do to touch the heart of the guest with this knowledge out of ACDC? Group 2 will have 2 euros. What could you do with 2 euros? Come up with a lot of examples. And the last group will be playing with 10 euros. Now make sure that you tell them that this is because in Ivy's budget, maybe you only have 0 euros. Maybe Lux wants to spend a little bit more money, that's fine, but we want people to think about it from a perspective that it doesn't have to cost money to touch the heart of the guest.
The second part of this workshop is about, if you've come up with all these good ideas, how will you communicate them to your guest?
Say it!
Express it!
Sing it!
Rap it!
Write it!
Or something!
But you have to make sure you tell the guest that you have a reason for doing this. Otherwise the guest will go, why do I get this? So make sure you practice saying it. And that is why this workshop is called Dare It. We find that this will be the biggest bridge for people to cross, to not only do that nice thing for the guest, but also say why we're doing it. We do this because we found out that.
And the final part of Dare It is about
finding out how you can find out if ACDC is alive and kicking in your hotel. Now, the biggest mistake that you could make in this one is to think, if as a GM, if you tell everybody to deliver at least 3 things into ACDC each week and to do at least 4 actions with it by the end of each week, that things are managed. But then you're going to implement it. And implementing something that is done with the heart is not a wise thing. We would like you to look for signs that it's alive. And you do that more by celebrating when it works than to measure it.